Michael Myers is a human being who killed his sister when he was 6 years old. And he came after you. We just want to know why. We want a glimpse inside his mind.
Michael Myers murdered 5 people. And he's a human being we need to understand.
Transfer. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock. He'll be locked away until the end of his days. That's the idea.
Right, welcome everyone. This is episode 43 of the Comics in Motion podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chris, and my co-host and good friend is Mr. Dave Horrocks.
Hi, Chris, and hi, guys. Welcome to the Comics in Motion podcast. What we like to do here is we like to review media like movies, TV shows, and games that are based on comic books. Myself, I'll be looking at the media from the perspective of a long-time comic book fan, and my co-host Chris will be reviewing mainly from that media perspective, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle as we walk through our given choice of the week and give our thoughts on it. What we also like to do is we also like to spoil the hell out of everything that we review. So if you haven't watched our choice of the week, then we'd advise you to hit that pause button or proceed with caution. And today we have a very special guest with us. So we have Michael Lee Graham, who is the artist formerly known as MLG. No, nothing.
I wasn't sure if I was allowed to.
That's all. Yeah, I didn't. It built up. He is an artist. He is an artist, and
oh my God!
So if you go through,
no, I'm sorry, you're getting called out on this, Dave. Now, before we went on air, Dave built this up like it was the line of the century.
No, I didn't. I just literally made it up now. Just when we were talking about is he Mike or is he MLG? And I thought, oh, he's an MLG. But I just built it up too much. Hey, it's not as good as my, or not good, not as bad as my Right Said Fred one last week.
No, you're right, actually, yeah. So, welcome, Mike, anyway.
Hi.
It's good to have you back, Mike.
It's good. I'm so sorry for my lack of response there. I just sort of sat here briefly just going, that's the bit? Is that the bit? Okay, that was
all right. I'll edit all that out and put in a laugh track.
Better leave that in, Dave. I'll edit this one, Mike. Don't you worry about it. Brilliant, absolute brilliant. So, how have you been, Mike? All right.
Been very good. Very, very busy. I've got Comic-Con coming up this weekend. I've been doing Inktober, and then obviously on the podcast a couple of episodes ago. Still just doing the final touches on our final Halloween. So, like I said, it's all kind of converging together, and I'm feeling that sweet stress that I'm very used to by now. But it's good. It's good stress.
So that's awesome. And if you don't go through all of our episodes sequentially, then you can go back to episode 40 and catch Mike and Mike Garley as well. And talking all about our final Halloween, which is a Kickstarter project. At the moment, you're about 88% of your target with 5 days to go. So it looks on track, but I'm sure it's a little bit nervy just in those last few days as to whether you're going to hit it.
It is a bit because it's been really interesting to Mike knows more about the kind of all the metrics and things like that, but it's been very interesting to see how certain kind of like periods during the month there'll be like a kind of a swell of contributors, and then other times, like I thought it would be ramping up by now, but it's taken a real dive. Not enormously, but it's just been interesting to see like the peaks and troughs. And I'm expecting Comic-Con for it to kind of spiral upwards again, because obviously we'll just be talking about it so much more.
Yeah, that's good.
I'd anticipate you'll smash it. I mean, the Comic-Con couldn't have come at a better time, really, could it?
Exactly. But I think Mike and I feel like it would have been nicer if maybe it had been last weekend. Just because it's getting so close to that deadline. I'm sure we'll hit our target, But you know how it all starts out. When we kind of first started talking about it, I think quietly we were both sort of thinking to each other, "Oh, we'll get funded within a week," and then everyone will be raving about it. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot of work actually. Just constantly getting on social media and letting people know about it. It's not something I'm used to that much. So it's been a real eye opener, just how much like amazing work Mike's put in just to make sure that as many people get to see it as possible.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and all the emails that come out seem to get an email at ridiculous o'clock. I'll usually pick them up in the morning. It's like, crikey, does Mike go to bed or what?
Oh no, absolutely, I think it's one of those things where it's because you've got to sort of consider the, to some extent, like the American market as well. I think Mike's kind of schedule at the moment is keeping him up quite late these days. So, I try and keep up with it, but I think he's made of stronger stuff than me.
Mike, I did notice, you posted on Twitter, you actually went back and looked at our last week's review, Spawn. So, very quickly, what did you make of that?
Oh, well, first of all, let's put it this way. I enjoyed the review a lot more than I enjoyed the film. Not to take anything away, but that's not saying much.
It's a pretty low bar, right? We understand. We get it.
But it was a great review, and I really enjoyed it.
Cool.
But I just kind of obviously listening to it, and I didn't go for the director's cut. I went for the original theatrical cut because I wanted to watch the same version that you guys had watched, and my goodness,
yep.
What a film! Yikes.
It was very interesting, wasn't it? And for curiosity, I mean, I would quite like to go and watch the director's cut because it's got to be better than that. And I just think, for me, it makes me more excited about the film coming out next year because I just think, well, the property's so good, you surely can't mess this up twice. But let's see. Hold my beer, as they say.
Well, I mean, you've got the Fantastic Four, which they've kind of. But I mean, let's put it this way: I didn't expect that new one to make the first one look good. Well, let's put it this way: that original one that came out in the 90s, that's the best one. So that famous one that was like made for like $1 million or something, had like no budget attached to it.
So that's fantastic, Mike. You've just managed to crush my boyhood enthusiasm for the movie next year and just remind me that, you can really make something bad worse. But hopefully, I'm still clinging on with my fingernails. It's going to be good next year.
I suspect this one will be good because we've seen some good R-rated comic book movies now. And I think the studios are getting a little bit more confident about doing that stuff. So I've got my fingers crossed because I used to love Spawn back in the day.
Yeah. And Chris, we had a rather special person like one of our tweets, didn't we?
We did. We had Spawn himself, Mr. Michael J. White, who I am actually a fan of for the for his karate stuff and that as well, Mike. So, yeah, it's a nice little thing for us.
Oh, I guess, I think in a weird way, he'd probably be a better Spawn now than he was back then because he's done, he's kind of a bit of like a sort of, I think like you mentioned, he's a bit of like a sort of a Jean-Claude Van Damme type. Yeah. There's those, is it Boka? Those like Boka martial arts?
Yeah, Boka and Blood.
Yeah, and he's really in with that crowd in terms of being like a go-to martial arts guy. And it seems a shame that he's kind of like built up a bit more momentum now, and someone else is getting the role. Obviously, Jamie Foxx is a great actor as well, I feel bad for the guy because he, he started off with the character, and he was like, well, I guess he's not the best actor though, is he? If we're being
Well, it's all relative. I mean, he was the best thing in the movie, probably, but again, there's probably a low bar by the supporting cast he had around him.
That was Martin Sheen for me. I thought he was the the best part. Just watching his performance was incredible.
Yeah.
That voice he was putting on, as well as the dyed hair, was just awful, wasn't it? It was just like, oh my word.
It was startling.
Yeah, just awful. Absolutely awful. But yeah, it's funny, to be honest, because like me and Dave rang me, he saw the like, and I know he's only liked it, but even so for us, that's a big achievement. And we were like a pair of little kids. Like, oh my God, he's liked it. You know, it's because it's nice for someone to pick up on that, and probably for him as well. It's 21 years ago that film come out, so I suppose it's good for him to get a bit of a mention on something that's pretty poor, really. But, you know, it's probably something I thought he was good in it, and the rest of the cast were just dreadful. I mean, what did you think of the clown, Mike? How bad was he? Oh,
wow. Yeah. I mean, gosh, I think I watched it when I was maybe 14. And even back then, I just remember thinking that like the jokes are a bit dull. But I was actually surprised at how wrong a lot of the jokes he was making.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, whoa. You can get this now. And those were... So am I right in thinking that it was a PG-13 when it came out?
Yeah.
I am flabbergasted that some of the stuff that character said made it through. Because one, no kids watching it would get half of those jokes. not just because they're incredibly inappropriate, but just because like no one would know. So yeah, I don't know. I guess they just let the actor just like riff for a lot of that stuff. But woof.
Oh, it's awful. You know who he is as well. Have you seen John Wick?
He's like the mechanic from
yeah. And you made a good point there, saying no kid would have got them jokes. I don't think any of the adults got them either.
That was tonally just an enormous mistake. They should have actually just tried to make him funny. I mean, God, if they were actually genuinely trying to make him funny, they got it wrong.
Totally. It was the actual cheerleading bit. I was like, oh dear, what this through the TV. It was just terrible. Oh, awful.
For me, his performance stunk of being a little bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
I think he knew.
Well, if he wasn't, he should have been. So
I think he was trying to relate to the audience, knowing they were going to be embarrassed watching that piece of crap. But anyway,
yeah. I mean, he was pretty good in Kick-Ass. He was in the first couple for that, I think. So
yeah,
his career obviously didn't die. He had enough makeup on and to cover it. But
that's a good point. Yeah.
What I'd say is just some other news from this last week. So in our last show, we discussed about Iron Fist being cancelled, and hot on its heels, Luke Cage is cancelled as well. So that I don't know about you, Chris and Mike. I was really shocked about that. I wasn't shocked at all about Iron Fist, but I thought Luke Cage. I thought 2 strong seasons. Had a big following. So, what did you guys make to that?
I was gonna.
That wasn't a joke. That one. That was a genuine question.
That was funnier than the joke. I
didn't want to just jump in.
Well, you're the guest, Mike. So I'm going to open the floor to you.
Okay. I was actually very surprised. Yeah. When I heard about Iron Fist, did not surprise me at all. It's very difficult to pull back a series, especially when everyone just basically agrees that the first series was rubbish. I actually never saw the first series, so I'm just kind of basing this off of what I heard online. But based on how strong Jessica Jones was and Daredevil, and what came out first? Was it the first season of Luke Cage, or was it Iron Fist that came out first? I think it was Luke Cage that came out first, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and then Iron Fist.
I mean, those are 3 hard first seasons to follow. I mean, they pretty much knocked it out of the park with all of them. Although I think Luke Cage, in the first season of that, we saw the kind of formula not work perfectly, because there's always that sort of dip in like mid-season, and I felt it a bit more with Luke Cage, because I think there was that whole thing where there was a bad guy, and then all of a sudden there was a new bad guy, which kind of threw me for a loop a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was worse than that, though, wasn't it? Because Cottonmouth, was a fantastic bad guy.
Brilliant.
And then, spoilers for Luke Cage, but they kill him off halfway through and replace him with a cheap imitation. And for me, I don't know if it dipped. I think it just dropped off a cliff. So, Luke Cage, we haven't actually been through a full review, but showing my hand a bit, I thought the first half of it was fantastic. The second half, it was a lot worse a show, I thought.
Yeah, and I think as well. Sorry, Mike.
No, go for it.
I think as well. We spoke about this, Dave. I think you said this was the guy who played Cottonmouth. He ended up doing. He got an Oscar or a nomination for something. He actually had to leave something. That's why it dipped. To be fair, but I do agree. Daredevil is absolutely fantastic. I give it like an Asgard, which is our top score, Mike, when we reviewed the first series.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I'm Dave knows this, and we're going to review Daredevil soon. But I'm about 3/4 of the way through the third series, and if they cancel Daredevil, and I'm not going to reveal my hand or anything, I'm actually canvassing outside Marvel Studios. It could not get rid. And the only thing we alluded to, and Dave has mentioned privately, is that let's hope it's something to do with the Disney streaming service that's coming up, because Iron Fist, I've said it, I don't know, you may not listen to all our podcasts, but it's been a running joke between me and Dave how bad that series is, Mike. We can't bring ourselves to, well, the second series, you've watched a bit of it, Dave. I've not even started it. The third series, I got to episode 8 and just gave up on it. I thought it was atrocious. It was like two kids fighting in the house, like pretending to wrestle or something. It was that bad to fight. It was terrible. It was just, like if my nephew come or something, who's about 6 years old, wants to fight Hulk Hogan v John Cena, and I'm doing wrestling moves with him. It's like that. You're pretending to hit each other. You could physically see where they weren't hitting each other. It was just atrocious.
Oh, right, yeah. Because I mean, those some of those Daredevil fight scenes. I mean, Charlie Cox has obviously done a great job there. He's probably obviously put the hours in at the gym, because he's putting he makes it look convincing sometimes, especially when you have to see his face. Yeah. And I suppose one of the problems with one of the good things about Daredevil is that you can get a stunt guy in there, for some stuff, because his face is so obscured. But with the Iron Fist stuff, his face isn't obscured. So I don't know that for sure. Actually, has he put his weird mask on?
So they do, and in the second season, I think they do a better job. But every time you can see it's Finn Jones, it just takes a massive dip. It's awful, and if they do move to Disney and they do reboot, then I just hope they think carefully about who they cast, because for me it's chalk and cheese. I think Daredevil is absolutely fantastic. Every season's been strong, but then some of the other properties, and probably Iron Fist is the worst. They just don't seem to pay the same love and attention to Iron Fist. And there's some great runs of the Immortal Iron Fist by Ed Brubaker and Matt Fraction. And I'm absolutely gutted that, they've taken what could have been great and, come out with that. So hopefully we'll see Iron Fist on the screen again, but just do a better job of it next time.
I feel like what you really needed with Iron Fist is to find like the next Van Damme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like find like what they did with Arrow. They got a guy that wasn't an actor basically, but he was just incredibly physical. And look, we're not looking for Shakespeare here with a lot of these characters. We want them to be able to act convincingly. But there's so much physicality to these roles that it's really important for that to come across. And from what I've seen, on like forums and things like that, I think a lot of people just think that, and I feel terrible for saying this about the guy, but maybe it just wasn't the right guy for the role, which is a shame because he's a good actor. But
absolutely, yeah.
Just maybe physically he just didn't have what was needed, because you had such great fight choreography in Daredevil, but Daredevil isn't like the ultimate martial artist even. And then you go to this series, and for it to not like beat those action scenes, you know something's wrong when something like that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, just moving on, what we like to do, Mike, we like to, when we release a review, each day we'll put out a Twitter update, and give a little fun fact about whatever it is we're reviewing that week. And we're normally, I would say, Chris, moderately careful about our tweets, aren't we? And in quick succession, and I can't blame our social media manager, Chris, for both of these, because I did one and Chris did one, but we had a couple of Twitter faux pas where I tweeted out a fact about Luke Cake. Thank you, iPhone. Obviously, I type cake more than cage. And Chris, in trying to put out a Spawn fun fact, you put out a Swarm fun fact.
The thing was, though, Mike, nobody even noticed. The people actually interacting with me talked about the actual Spawn film, even though it said Swarm. So it was, I got away with it, but Luke Cake got called out. They put it on Facebook.
I'd love to know if Swarm is actually a film. It wouldn't surprise me if it was.
Yeah, it sounds like
if it isn't.
Let's get those rights quickly.
Yeah.
If it isn't, I think what we're thinking of doing, we're going to create a whole Comics in Motion universe, or a CIMU, if you like. Okay, so, we've got 2 characters now, and then next week we're going to be reviewing Series 3 of Daredevil.
Dave, I think you need to leave the jokes to me.
Let's hope that doesn't get cancelled.
I think, Mike, could you knock me up a little image, of a Daredevil? I think that would be lovely.
I was literally just thinking, I know what I'll take. These guys will love this. I know what I can do.
Oh, if you did that, legend. No right problem. Up there with David Brent.
that might be a bit more of a commitment.
Now, Mike, what we usually do now, we've introduced this the last few weeks. We do read out a couple of the reviews we've got on iTunes, because obviously the more reviews we get, the bigger the podcast hopefully will get and grow to a bigger audience, and that, and obviously gets better for us. Now, we do a bit of, shall we say, ad-libbing on how we feel the person reviewing sounds. So myself and Dave have got a review each. So this is how we think these people sound. So Dave, can you do the first review, please?
I thought you were going to do the first. Oh, okay. Feel the pressure now. So for this one, our review is by M1K3Y. So again, I think it's maybe another person who sat on the keyboard there or something. And when I read through this, I kind of got a bit of a Jonathan Ross or Jonathan Wass vibe. So did you know Jonathan Ross is a big comics fan?
Yeah. I mean, didn't his wife help write Kick-Ass?
Yep.
There we go.
And Kingsman as well. Good bit of trivia there.
Okay, yeah.
And also, so he's a huge comics fan himself. He did a documentary, really good documentary on, you can get it on YouTube. It's something like Searching for Ditko or something like that. And he goes into all the background about Steve Ditko and tries to catch up with him to interview him. But obviously he's a bit of a recluse. He didn't actually manage to get hold of him.
All the best artists are.
Yeah. He's released a few comics as well. So one of his more recent ones is called Revenge, which he did with the artist Ian Churchill, which is a really good read. Very adult, not one for the kids, that one. But yeah, so Wassy is the inspiration for this one. This is going to go horribly wrong. But okay, so here we go. Fun for nerds and normies alike. A podcast with a great dynamic, reviewing content that has come from comics by someone who is in that world and someone who watches the movies, which all in all makes for a great listening experience. A very balanced perspective on the nerdier side of comics and TV shows. I highly recommend. So thank you very much, sir. That was a lovely review. And the same deal goes out. So if I do sound like what you actually sound like, then give us a call and let us know.
Sounding more like Dick Van Dyke, Mary Poppins.
G'day, Mary Poppins.
I thought that was actually quite kind. Usually people really let them have it, but I think that was very accurate.
So go on, Chris. I've got my popcorn here. Off we go.
Thanks for that, Dick, for that review. That was fantastic. So,
Dick Grayson.
This one is by Steve CL365, and this is entitled Ant-Man and Wasp Review. Podcast review, 5-star. Great as always. My review of the film, 4 out of 5 stars. Full review, emailed to you. Good to hear the podcast is getting the respect and kudos it rightly deserves. That's it. Thanks very much, Steve, for that. That's a beautiful review.
Sound like one of the meerkats.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't know why I was going with that.
What were you going for there,
That's a good way to do it.
Either way, we need to check his green card because it's definitely wasn't the right accent. I don't know what happened.
That's a good way to do it. I don't think even you realised what accent you were doing.
You're not wrong there, Mike.
So, okay. Brilliant. I do enjoy those, to be honest. Okay, so, Chris, what are we reviewing this week?
Well, we're going to review the 2018 Halloween film.
It just came out last week in the UK, didn't it? So, and this is why, Mike, you're a big horror fan, so quite keen to get you on. And Chris was obviously quite keen to go and watch the movie.
Oh, yeah. Thrilled.
Yeah. Absolutely. I loved all of you. Thanks for that. Yeah.
So, I really appreciate you coming on, and because you're going to be the expert in this genre for sure. So let me just go. As one of the things we discussed, Mike, when you were on last, is we always try and tie this back to comic books in some way, and sometimes it's a little bit more tenuous than others.
Well, you got to make it work somehow.
This might be just one of those times, but Halloween was actually a 3-issue miniseries published by Chaos Comics back in the year 2000. So this story was set after Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, which came out in 1995, and really follows the Tommy Doyle character. Now, interestingly, Tommy Doyle was played by Ant-Man himself, Paul Rudd. So we got a little bit of a Marvel crossover there. Now, in terms of the story, Tommy finds the journal of Dr. Sam Loomis, and it contains the story of Michael Myers and his time at Smith's Grove, Warren County Sanitarium. Now, Michael sees that Tommy has the journal, so proceeds to stalk him, and so good things don't come to Tommy, but he manages mostly to get away. Spoilers. Now, there are 3 issues, so you can get the first issue, and then Halloween 2, The Blackest Eyes, and then Halloween 3, The Devil's Eyes. These are all just individual one-shots. Now, if you haven't heard of Chaos Comics, that's because they went bankrupt in 2002. They didn't have too many notable characters, but one you may have heard of is Lady Death. And Lady Death was ranked as the 39th in the Comics Buyer's Guide, 100 Sexiest Women in Comics. And if you're unsure of that character, just go on Google, but probably not at work. Now, in terms of these issues, you can go and get these on eBay. They're not really worth anything, but if you're buying it a few days before Halloween, then you'll pay a bit of a premium on those. But if you're a massive Halloween fan, these do have a lot of good feedback from comic critics. Now, Chris, do you want to give us a bit of the movie background?
I do, yes. Obviously, released this year, 2018, directed by David Gordon Green, and also written by him and Jeff Bradley and Danny McBride. It's the 11th installment in the Halloween series, but actually only the 3rd is as a direct sequel of the first 2 films. So obviously, this is where we get the 40-year separation with Laurie and that. Starring again Jamie Lee Curtis and the original Mike Myers, which was Nick Castle, who did a lot of the silhouette work. But there actually was 2 people playing Mike Myers in this film. A guy who's a stuntman comes, James Jude Courtney. Now he's used for all the mask work and the chasing and that, and they liked his style of acting and the way he uses his body, because they said he felt very cat-like with the Mike Myers character, and that's what they wanted, like this sort of sneaking killer. I didn't really see that, to be honest, but that's what I've found out anyway in the researching. It was originally Dimension Films had it, but they lost the rights to it, and it reverted back to Miramax, who were the original creators of it, under Blumhouse Productions. It was announced in 2016 that they were going to make another Halloween film with the original co-creator and obviously the composer, John Carpenter. And he's executive produced and was like the creative consultant on the whole film, really. It premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival on September the 8th and was out on the 19th of October in the States by Universal Pictures. Now, this weekend and last weekend alone, it's made a lot of money. It's made already 103 million worldwide. In the UK, it's took 3.5 million over the weekend, which is quite good. And for a film where the lead character is over 55, it's the highest gross rated film ever, because obviously Jamie Lee Curtis is, in the 60s now. Critics-wise, again, fantastic. It's at 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's of 238 critics' reviews, which is fantastic. Average rating's about 6.8, but still, again, that's above average and absolutely fine, especially for this genre of film. On Metacritic, is at 67%. That's based on 51 critics' reviews. Again, really good. But the actual cinema goers ratings, it's actually favoured in the 80% plus, about 83%, which is fantastic. So it's definitely been a success, and there is already talk that there could be more to come. So we'll see at the end of the review. But yeah, that's all I've got really on that, Dave.
Good stuff. So should we go into our review then?
Let's go.
Hi, I'm Mike from the Genuine Chit Chat podcast, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. I speak to a wide variety of guests, from travellers to musicians to those afflicted with mental or physical illnesses. There's really no subject that's off limits, from movies to politics and even controversial topics ranging from sex to drug reform and political correctness. So if you still believe in the art of conversation, are intrigued by healthy debates with different ideas and perspectives you may not have thought of, and want a podcast where every episode is about something different with a variety of guests, then this may be the podcast for you. You can hear us on YouTube and all your favourite podcast apps, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. So if you want to hang out and listen to honest conversations with interesting people, then come to Genuine Chit Chat, where I'm your host, Mike Burton.
So obviously we start off, and I don't know whether this is a dig at me and you, this Dave, but the two first characters you see are two podcasters. So I don't know whether... Now, can I just say something, Mike, that Dave told me the other day, and I was absolutely crying, and this is why it just sticks to. Dave read something that said, having a podcast in this day and age is the equivalent of having the old tramp stamp tattoo from the mid-2000s and stuff. I don't know whether it was difficult. I just found that really amusing. So when I saw him and he went, well, podcasters, I was like, oh my God. And my missus is sat next to me. She's digging me as if to say, yeah, even these are going to, these are definitely going to get killed, aren't they? Oh no, what's going on? No wonder they've asked me to watch it. But yeah,
actually, Chris, I mean, I was thinking something slightly different, because you've got the two podcasters, haven't you, Aaron and Dana?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Aaron's done all right there. He's got a lovely lady there as a co-host, and I'm thinking, I think I've been shortchanged here.
Oh no!
I do look pretty good in a dress. I am 6 foot.
Right, the next Comic Con we go to, I'll take you up on that.
I'll be Harley Quinn.
Oh dear, I think I'd pay not to see that. I think.
You have a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have a Kickstarter for it.
Remember, hey, the grass isn't always greener, Dave. Just remember that, you know. But no, so we start off. They go to this sanitarium, don't they, to visit Mike Myers. We get introduced to the most cliched doctor we've ever seen. You know, it looks like a mad scientist. And we get them in a yard, don't we, where all these people are chained up. They've obviously got mental health problems. And I'll be honest with you both, having watched the original Halloween, and you know that I'm an absolute coward. I make no bones about this. So I have watched the original Halloween. I've never seen the sequel. I honestly thought Mike Myers, and you both might tell me to just disconnect now. I thought he was like a Freddy Krueger type character when he was supernatural. I never actually realised he was a proper person. That's how much my education goes on Mike Myers. You know, even though knowing the character. So I was quite surprised that he was alive.
I was quite surprised how much he's changed since Austin Powers.
Hey,
on a roll today, aren't I? So yeah, I don't know where to start with that one, Chris. So it's an interesting point. I mean, he is a little bit superhuman, isn't he? And actually, I'll throw it out to Mike because Mike, you'll know a lot more about this franchise than I do. But the things that he does, he's a bit more than human, isn't he?
Absolutely. So it's a very strange series in that, obviously, in the first one, he is just kind of like this, like evil incarnate human being that just wants to kill people, just completely at random. And as what happens with a lot of these characters is when people realize, oh, we've got something here, we could make some more money out of this. They want to do the sequels, and as these characters grow, so do their supposed powers. But Michael Myers was never really supposed to be like this kind of a character. So I, personally, for myself, throughout the film, because, and this is all getting a bit convoluted, this Halloween is technically Halloween 2, even though Halloween 2 exists. But
yeah, no, it's like 2A, isn't it? It's a parallel universe.
Yeah. I think this series has had like 3 or 4 reboots. So the Halloween series has all of a sudden very interestingly become like a kind of create your own horror series. So you can pick and choose like which path you want to take. In this one, I was surprised that I think they pushed it a little bit in terms of what he was capable of. It's like some of the things that he does are absolutely beyond what a human could do. But at the same time, at one point, he gets his fingers bit and he recoils in pain. And I just thought, like, something's not adding up here. But he is, for all intents and purposes, a very, very, very strong man. So that's that. It's not completely outside the realms of possibility, but he's an interesting character in that sense, because how far do you push it? And I think they try to push it maybe just a touch too far sometimes in this one. Yeah.
And I must admit, I even though I'm not a big horror fan, as you all know, and that, you know, we've laughed and joked about it, I could pretty much see what was going to happen around this first section of the film. I don't know about you, Dave, but it was sort of, I'm enjoying it, and obviously we're only at the first sort of sections in that, but I could pretty much see the way this was going to go. And then when they pulled his mask out, I mean, that Aaron guy come from nowhere, from being this mild-mannered, like, you know, podcaster to being like this, you know, look, say something. And I was thinking, this doesn't even make sense, why you would be even allowed to get that close to somebody like that, you know, and that doctor. And I'm thinking, this just, it didn't make a lot of logical sense as much as, you know, I feel like this can be logical if you know, to follow the story. I was thinking this stretching it a little bit, I must admit, at the start.
Well, Chris, what I'd say is, we all know that the sponsorship deals for podcasting are, illustrious, aren't they? So we obviously, we do our Scrooge McDuck dive into our big vault of gold coins every night. But, the fact that he's managed to get hold of a podcaster has managed to get hold of Mike's original mask from 40 years ago. I know. And no one goes, hang about that's evidence. you can't just take that.
Why is it not in a plastic bag?
I know it's not mint condition anymore, is it? So I just thought, and there were a few little oddities which I pick on all of them, but I just thought it was a bit weird. And now what I would say is, were they actually podcasters, or was that just a line later when they were trying to get into Laurie's place? Because, again, I could maybe buy a little bit more if they were actually journalists pretending to be podcasters. I mean, if you look at all the material, it does describe them as podcasters, but it just doesn't really make sense with what I know about podcasting.
I kind of feel like a podcaster who is doing something journalistic would just say that they're a journalist. It's like the other way around. I think podcasting is just a medium. I think what those two characters are kind of based on is there's a really famous podcast that came out. There's been 2 seasons of it now, a couple of years ago, called Serial, and it's about like an unsolved murder, basically. And I think they are slightly alluding to that. Like that, because that podcast did so well that, I mean, let's put it this way. I'm not sure how well funded 2 podcasters are that are just trying to sort of research a guy that killed 5 people 40 years ago.
Well, I can tell you from our perspective, Mike, not very well. Not very well funded at all.
I don't know if you've got $3,000 to throw about.
Because I was chuckling to myself, Mike, in the cinema thinking, he's not a me and Dave are $3,000. He's not. We got to Vegas. We ain't going to no one's house. I'll just go on Google and nick an interview. I don't give a crap about that. If I've got $3,000 in my pocket, I'm taking it and going on holiday. It was just nonsense. I must admit, I did when they got to the gate and she said, we'll give you $3,000. And then from nowhere, the gate opened. I was thinking, oh no, what am I sat here watching this rubbish for? But it was funny. It was more for me because of what we do, as part-time podcasters sort of thing. I thought it was like little in-jokes that yourself get it as well. But yeah, there's no way me and Dave are ever going to see $3,000, I don't think, at the moment anyway.
No. Not at all. But, I mean, you mentioned there, Chris, I mean, that Dr. Sartain, I mean, he just needed to rub his hands like a greasy salesman a little bit more, didn't he, to come across a bit more obvious.
I did not realize, like, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I just thought, oh, well, the original therapist actor is dead. Is it Donald Pleasance?
Yeah, Donald Pleasance.
He's not with us anymore. So I thought, oh, they've just found, and I just sort of thought, oh, he must be like a thespian or something, or like some other kind of actor that like I'm not that familiar with, that is just doing this, like to basically fill that role. And I just took it as that, and I took it very, very sincerely. So that part of the film really threw me for a loop.
Okay.
Further down the line.
Right. Okay.
Okay, that's very, very good observation.
Cool, but yeah, so they try and get a rise out of Michael, don't they, with their stolen mask, and but they don't manage to. They manage to irritate all the other residents of the yard, but nothing more than that. And then they head across to meet up with Laurie, don't they? And basically, this is where, I mean, to be honest, going into the movie, I knew this was like a splinter, parallel universe, and so it's very much trying to be its own thing, so ignore all the other movies that have gone before apart from the original. So we get to find out a little bit more, don't we? So Laurie's basically been in, this state, post-traumatic stress for the last 40 years and just obsessing over Michael coming back. She's obviously not had a good time with her daughter, and basically, the podcasters, they want them to get together because Michael's going to be moved to a maximum security prison. Now, I don't know, did you guys pick up on why after 40 years they're going to move him to a maximum security prison? I mean, I'd have thought he'd have been in a maximum security prison, but I didn't quite pick up on why this had to happen now, other than it was just a plot device to get him on the bus.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Because the story needed to happen.
Yeah. I think all three of us saw that coming a mile off, because I was thinking, this is just, you just know how this is going to go. And I must admit, we're getting this, the next sort of section is the prison break, but that doctor, could he make it any more obvious what was going to happen? I've been his doctor for 40 years. Well, yeah, I've been his doctor for 40. I know this man. I'm like, we know, we get it. You've been with him. You're an old bloke. We understand that. You had black hair and a black moustache. Now you're greying with a grey moustache. We get it. You don't have to keep telling me. Not that thick. You know what I mean? It was like, we know. I just knew what was going to happen in this. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but you just knew that something was going to happen with that bus. It was just there, wasn't it, in front of you? And he didn't even try and hide it, did he? It was just blatantly obvious.
You see, I thought that there was that scene where Laurie is actually outside the facility and she's like drinking. I thought she was going to cause the bus to crash, because I thought that she was going to go after. I nearly called him Jason. I thought she was going to go after Mike Myers herself. And I was a little bit, because I thought like a lot of this film was basically going to deal with, the trauma and like play around with, what happens when someone is traumatized, because they kind of juggled that a little bit. And I thought that she was going to be the cause of him getting released because she couldn't get over what happened. But no, that didn't happen.
I think that would have made
screen.
Yeah, that would have made a lot more sense to me. Apart from, I guess, they needed to have them show down in the final act, didn't they? Yeah. So if she'd have caused the bus accident, I don't know, maybe he could have escaped or something, and then they could have had the showdown. But that would have made sense more so than just, it's crashed and he's escaped.
And not just that. Sorry to cut you off, Mikey. Not just that. She then turns all Sarah Connor's on us, doesn't she? Sarah Connor went all Terminator 2 then, where she's now a weapons specialist and all. And I understand she's had a lot of time on her hands and all this, but I wasn't that convinced by her now being some gun specialist and all this stuff. The segment of her shooting the guns in the yard and not missing a shot and all this. I was thinking, I'm not sure whether I buy that. I know it's explained in the plot why and all that stuff, but I don't know. I just felt a bit thin on the ground to me.
So it's difficult to kind of... I suppose because we're just not used to sort of seeing that on film. I feel like maybe that comes into it a little bit. You know what I mean? It's kind of, I think we're all very used to seeing like the older grizzled man kind of getting that sort of, like Clint Eastwood and stuff like that in Unforgiven. But it's something that doesn't, like in the sort of movie consciousness, it's something new that's happening. And I personally bought it. I think Jamie Lee Curtis she's got a very, I think it's like her facial expressions. Mm-hmm. She's just very, very, she looked like she was like constant. She looked like she was like an open wound almost. Like I kind of bought that this was a woman that was, she was almost like channeling the same sort of thing that makes Michael Myers supernatural almost, where it's like Michael Myers is almost supernatural just because he is just so hell-bent on killing people, and she's hell-bent on killing Michael Myers. So I kind of, almost as a kind of, almost like a more sort of like fairy tale kind of thing, I sort of bought it in that sense. Like, okay, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
That's all right. You're on the right podcast for that.
I've gone off on a tangent. Scrap that bit. I've fluffed that.
That's all right. It all stays in. We do it all the time.
I guess what I'm saying is that in terms of kind of like what needs to happen in the film, it's like I liked that she was kind of becoming a kind of a Michael Myers killer. You know, that like it for me, it wasn't about kind of like buying it or so much, but it was like, yes, that's going to be good. I would like to see where that goes.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think there are a few things, weren't there, that if you look back at the original, they've flipped around. You know, so where Michael's character was, you know, it's Laurie's character, and I don't know. I think if anyone obsesses over something for 40 years, you'd get pretty good at it. And so I must admit, you're right, Chris. I was thinking Sarah Connor as well, but only because we don't have that many examples of a woman who's, you know, trained herself and is obsessed with protecting herself at all costs, and so I was thinking of that just because there's not many other good examples of it, but I kind of bought it as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong. As the film progresses, I enjoy Jamie Lee Curtis in it. I'm not slating. I agree with you, Mike. I think as it goes, and you're right, Dave, as well. It becomes believable, but at that point, I thought, oh no, I've seen all this before, but. What, you know, we've seen that with blokes and stuff, haven't we? With these sort of badasses, and they can take on a full army with 12 bullets in a gun and stuff. So in that respect, you are correct. But she still had the fear in the character. There was still the fear there, even though it was building, like you said, building. Dave was right. If they'd met earlier in the film, it'd have been a pointless at the end, I think. But the way it built up was great, because even though, you know, she was this person who's having to defend herself and train a family, she also had that fear of what he's capable of, and she knows he's relentless. So I enjoyed that build up to the end, I must admit. And this bit got me a bit off kilter, but after that, it did bring me back in with what she was doing as a character. I enjoyed all that.
Yeah. So we get to we're in a car scene, aren't we, with the father and son, and you know, they're having a bit of a conversation there, and I guess it's all a bit 2018, isn't it? Because the son's talking about he wants to do a bit of dancing. He prefers that to hunting and stuff like that. Yeah, a bit of pointless dialogue. But they come across the crash bus with all of the mental patients wandering around, and you're thinking, yep, this is where it goes south. Now, I have to say, Chris, I mean, I was thinking of you in this bit, because this bit was pretty creepy, I have to say. And there's only one bit in this whole movie which had me jumping out of my seat. And that was where he wanders up to the prison guard, who looks like he's sort of dead on the floor. And then you get that. We talked in episode 40, didn't we, about jump scares? And yep, that jump scare got me. And I thought, well, the only consolation there, I bet it got Chris more.
Well, I haven't got my camera on, but I've got my hands up. So yes, he did get me as well. And I'll be honest with you, my wife's got bruises on her right arm because she was to my left. And she wasn't very happy with me, Mike. And luckily, there was only 7 people in the cinema, because we went to like the 10-5 screening. And I'm so glad. Oh, my word. I mean, the couple of the bits that were meant to scare you did get me. But there was a lot of stuff where my bottle was going big time. I needed a cushion like I would have been at home, because the bits that shouldn't have scared me. And it was ridiculous. Even when the kid, obviously you've got this bit when he grabs his leg, and then the kid goes on the bus and shoots the doctor. He jumps out like it's, you know, like a firing range. So he's like, don't shoot. And then it just shoots
You have failed the level. Yeah. Go back to the shot of civilian. Go back to the start.
Yeah. It's like ridiculous. That kid has like a bloody water pistol or something next to it. He's blowing holes in the doctor. But at that point, obviously, we've not seen Michael then. I did think every single person has been dead or hurt but the doctor. And in my head, I'm thinking the doctor's done something here. You know, like, because he got shot mistakenly. But I must admit, I was shocked by the fact that the kid legs it round, can't find his old man. Well, now, there's an elephant in the room here, guys, that both of you have not said. Did you not think that his dad was a bit old to be his dad? There was something going on there. That bloke who was supposed to be his dad looked about 75. He was older than the copper and the doctor. I was thinking, because I actually thought, I'll be honest with you, I thought there was some Operation U-Tree stuff going down there, because I was thinking, what's going on here? I thought he'd like pick some kid up off the corner or something. I was like, right, Dad, I'm thinking, I'm not having this. I just genuinely thought, he's not his old man. He's definitely the dad in the playground where they go, oh, is that your grandson? It's like, no.
Oh, my God.
It's like, none of it. I am having none of that at all. But he gets in the vehicle, and I was surprised that Mike Myers then just decimates his poor kid. And I've never seen that really in a lot of horror stuff that I've seen. I don't know about you guys, but I was quite shocked by that little section.
Yeah, you don't see that too often. Where like you see like kids in horror films, like ghost horror films, where they'll be scared. You can scare a child as much as you want in a horror film, but you don't usually see any real harm come to them. So that was quite an interesting kind of opening to the first kill. Like Michael Myers basically just coming on scene saying, "I'm not fucking about here."
Yeah,
yeah, and
everyone goes.
It's interesting you say that. So what Mike, about the rest of the franchise? Because I was surprised the kid bought it as well. And I don't know if I just had in my mind, he was a bit like, say, Predator, where, the kid isn't any kind of threat to him at all. So why would he even bother? But yeah, so I was really surprised he killed the kid as well. But in the other movies, I mean, does he kill children or just anyone?
I think I haven't seen all of them, but from what I've seen, he generally doesn't do it to proper minors. Like teenagers are fine. And also, like, there is a scene later on in the film where there's a baby, and he just leaves the baby. So there is, it's not just, oh, this thing is living, must kill. So there is, and also like there are children that bump into him literally before he goes off and kills someone. So it's I think it's like I think maybe the rule is if someone might potentially tell on me, then I've got to kill them. Or if they're just getting in my way, I'm going to kill them. Yeah. Or if they're a horny teenager, then I've got to kill them.
I mean, if you're a horny teenager smoking weed, I mean, you've had it. You are the prime cut, and you're going first. But what I said, so actually, as we've been talking, I guess he did have a gun, didn't he? So, in my Predator analogy, I guess he would be, a potential threat there.
And Mike must have seen him shoot that doctor. And just gone, oh my God, this kid's wild. He's not going to give me a second.
No. And then obviously the next bit is, the podcasters, our famous, very rich bankroll podcasters, then go to a gas station, don't they? And I've got to say, right, is there any real explanation how he catches them up? Because I know the old joke with Mike Myers is people run at the speed of Usain Bolt, but no matter how fast they run, he appears behind them, doesn't he? Because he doesn't really move very quick. And I know he's driving a vehicle, but is it explained how he tracks them down at this gas station? Because I couldn't logically think how that had happened. I didn't understand that, if I'm being honest.
Also, plot device.
There you go. Yeah, because of story. Also,
there's a lot of that in this movie.
Yes, there is. There are some contrivances. I do kind of want to interject and just say, because I feel like we've just been kind of like, that there is a lot to nitpick in this film, but I do need to say that I really enjoyed myself watching this. It's quite strange that, considering a lot of there's a lot of stuff that happened in the film where I kind of rolled my eyes at it and just went like, what? But I did really oddly find myself enjoying it. So just to sort of interject before, people think that I'm just completely like slating this movie.
No, I enjoyed it as well, Mike. Yeah. My thing is, I like to pick the daft things out, and like we've just done, you've done the same. So I don't think anybody would think that. I do agree. I'm enjoying it myself because I'm absolutely petrified. So I'm calling it out because I'm being a coward more.
It's a distraction. It's a coping strategy.
I've not been able to sleep with the light off since, so don't worry about that.
But, now that I've said something nice, just to go back to picking this film apart.
Yeah. What I would say is, I think at some point, and I don't quite know when it happened, maybe it's around Star Wars 7, but I think the studios have basically figured out, okay, so we can have our cake and eat it. What we can do is we can take these franchises that people know and love. We can take the old actors and we can put them in a modern movie with some younger actors and keep the franchise going.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't help but feel like, when we're getting into Laurie's granddaughter, it felt a bit like that. Okay, this is how they hand over the baton and this is how they're going to keep it going.
Yeah. And the character that I was probably most interested in, the mum, she got probably the least screen time.
Yeah.
Because you can't make a franchise with a middle-aged mum. You got to hand it over to the teenager, I suppose. Which for me was like, I think one of my biggest gripes with the film was the fact that I thought, oh, this is very interesting. The granddaughter, the daughter, and the mother dynamic, and it really made me think that it was going to really go into that. And then, like about halfway through, I think everyone just went, "Oh, fuck it, we're making a slasher film. Fuck it, just barrel forward with that. We don't need to go any deeper," which is fine. But I felt bad because I thought we were going to get a bit more out of that that dynamic, because it kind of tied up quite neatly at the end.
Yeah. So Judy Greer, the mother. So I mentioned about Paul Rudd earlier. So he'd played Tony Loomis back in '95. Well, Judy Greer was his ex-wife, wasn't she, in the Ant-Man movies? So again, another little Marvel Universe connection there.
I wonder what she was out of. Yeah.
But she gets we'll talk about it when we get there, I'm sure. But I think she has one fantastic moment in the movie, doesn't she?
Yes.
But near the end, and we'll talk about it more when we get there. But yeah, sorry, Chris. So we're back with our podcasters, aren't we? And we're pretty optimistic about their chances, I think.
Yeah, and also. Yeah, we are, Dave. Yeah, they decide that he's going to fill up, and in the background, the one thing I do like the way they actually blur out Mike Myers without his mask on. So he's going round and he's maniacally killing the two garage attendants and the mechanic or whatever, and he's killing him in the background as the bloke's there filling his car up in here and stuff. Is it Aaron? He's filling the vehicle up, and then the girl Dana, she decides to go to the toilet. Now, she sat there. She's obviously got a bit of writer's cramp because it's the longest wee we've ever seen and the dirtiest toilet we've ever seen.
Do we know if it's a number 1 or a number 2? I don't know for sure, are we?
I'm not sure, but we didn't hear any drops. We didn't hear any plops or drops, so presumably she just had a bit of a wee cramp or something. But anyway... we then comes in and Mike comes in and he's trying the doors in here and he's got the boots on because he's stolen the clothes of one of the mechanics, and she's just about to get decimated. He sort of breaks the door in and she jumps underneath the toilets, which is a bit stupid because hers was the only door that had a lock on, and she's now running away and he's grabbing her and that. And then he comes in from nowhere, Mr. Podcaster, and is ready to sort of throw a few hands down with Mike Myers in it. Just like,
tell you what, these podcasters are built of stern stuff, aren't they? He does all right, considering he takes a pounding, doesn't he? But he keeps going. I thought he was going to get up from it.
I must admit, though, when he looks at him, doesn't he? Instead of just going in there and going, right, mate, here you go, smack, and give him as much damage as pain as, but he looks his straight around and goes, Michael, whack, and I'm like, no, just hit him. You don't have to say his name,
just in case there was any confusion for the audience.
Yeah.
And he gets absolutely pummeled, doesn't he? And obviously, I did think that she was going to get away, but he chokes her and lifts it. Because I think, Mike, it goes back to your point about what we asked about, is he superhuman? Because he's got this strength when he's lifting people off their feet. And she's quite a big woman, isn't she? Not a big woman, but she's tall, isn't she? And he lifts her straight off her feet and just chokes her out, so there is that thing. You are correct. There is something about this guy. He's got freakish strength as well, and sort of adrenaline rush from somewhere, which obviously overtakes his body, the first for sort of killing people. But I really like that scene. That's like a gripping. Oh, it's a claustrophobic scene where you're hoping someone's going to get away, aren't you? And they just don't. It's brilliant.
Suffocating. That scene. It really, really was.
I mean, I'm not sure if I'm making this up or I've heard it from someone else, but I mean, the thing about Mike Myers, he just is a great white shark, isn't he? I don't know if it's the eyes, just, because you can't ever see his eyes, and he's just relentless. There's no emotion there whatsoever. And it's the relentless nature of how he pursues his kill. And to me, it's just like, if you're swimming in with a great white shark, you've had it.
That's what they get so right in this film. There is nothing behind those eyes. He is just there to kill people. There's no motive. Which is another element to the film that I really liked, is these people obsessing over, like, what makes you do this, Michael? I want to find out. And, Michael's coming for me. Laurie, he's not coming for you. He just wants to get out and kill people. Okay. It was never about you. And I find that, like, I wish they'd gone into that a bit more, because that I really liked. That, he's probably, like, she's been thinking about him for 40 plus years, and he's just been standing there thinking, oof, I can't wait to kill some people.
Yeah.
But those elements worked beautifully, I thought. So that's one of the crowning achievements of this film, I think, is how they handled Mike Myers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. And now there's a section here coming up which I really enjoyed, but this gave me the worst scare I've ever had watching any film. Absolute checking my undies after this bit. And it shouldn't have made me jump, but it did. Oh, my God. I have got to admit it, Mike. I've told Dave this when we spoke yesterday. Oh, my word. I was I just saw my house complete. I was just gone completely. So, obviously, Mike is now wandering around Haddonfield, isn't he? The trick-or-treaters are there. You've got all these people dressed up. Now, I must admit, I'm not sad at the woman who's dressed as a nurse who was getting in the car, because I'm thinking, what party are you going to? Because she's got like this nurse's outfit on, sussied up and everything, which I thought was just a bit random from nowhere.
Took 2 sets of car keys with her.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I was not mad at her at all, but
it was a little bit like the filmmakers were like, look what Halloween has become.
Mike was trying to get in the back of her car going, oh my God.
Spooky costumes. We don't need to do sexy costumes.
It was just really random, because there was little kids running around her, and literally that dress was a belt. It was like, well, hello there. But so next minute, obviously, he goes into one of the houses. This woman's there, isn't she? And that's where we got a proper bit of gore there, Mike. Proper. And Dave, he stabs her through the neck, doesn't he? Like through the it's all right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really creepy though, the way she's sort of shutting the blinds, isn't she? And he comes around the back of the house and just comes. I did like this little bit, but you are right, Mike, as well. A couple of kids just barge into him, and he doesn't even react to it, does he?
Well, it's again, like it's one of those things where even us as an audience are kind of questioning his motives. Like, why didn't he just kill those kids?
Yeah.
That would have been really easy. But then obviously, he goes into that, like that. I think that sequence is one of the best sequences in the whole film.
Yeah.
And also because he doesn't really do anything particularly over the top or anything.
Mm-hmm.
That was what was so scary about it. It was just this idea that anyone could be in that mask. Like, if you've got a door left open or something, literally anyone can just walk into your house, pick up a hammer, and just have at you, basically. So that was, and it didn't need to be on screen as well, which I thought was really, really clever.
Mm-hmm.
But then it did the lady with the knife through the neck.
Yeah.
And that was like, what tone are we setting here? Are we showing it or are we not?
It really was like, oh, you silly woman, you've left your washing out and opened the back door or something. Like she left the back door. I was like, oh no, but again, gripping stuff. You're thinking, no, don't shut the blinds, and she just gets it then.
Yeah.
It's the next section where I absolutely went. It was Vicky, obviously, Laurie's granddaughter. She's at the party, isn't she? Not Vicky, Alison, sorry. Alison's the granddaughter.
Yeah.
And Vicky's a friend, the blonde girl. And she's not at the party. And I'm going to pick somewhat apart in this bit, so forgive me, which I think was really funny. But just before then, she's obviously at this party. Vicky is, and Vicky's minding this young kid who's randomly just clipping his toenails and giving her a load of aggro. He's giving her a load of aggro for some reason. And he's like speaking proper, like he's about 15, 16 years old. And she's like, get on over it, don't leave me here and all this. So obviously she then says her boyfriend's on the way over. But what I found really bizarre was this kid's, he just don't care. He's about, was he 8 or 9 or whatever he is. And he's proper like streetwise and that. But yet he goes to bed with a little light on as if he's about 1 year old, a Tommy light showing in the bedroom, and she's tucking him in. Like, you're my favourite. And I was just like, what's going on here,
If Vicky was my babysitter, I'd want tucking in as well.
All right, fair enough, I'll shut up. But no, it was the bit where, I've pictured the scene, guys, right? I'm in the cinema, these 3 people sat behind us, me and my wife, and these one, so that's fine. There's 2 other people about 4 rows in front. There's no one else in the whole cinema, right? So we've got them directly behind us, 3 people just randomly behind us. I've got my feet up on the seat in front, so I'm sort of slouched like I'm at home or something, because I'm like, they don't come to when in the cinema, I'm always fidgeting. So I'm sat up, not even expecting anything. And Sam's there, like, just leaning next to me. And that Vicky's boyfriend just jumps on the screen, he doesn't do anything. He just sort of jumps out at her joking. Well, I kicked the chair in front. I fell off the chair. Sam is next to me, absolutely crying, trying not to laugh out loud. She had tears rolling down her face. I'm not joking. He was almost go get the old defibrillator out. I absolutely crapped it. And the bits in the film that should have got me a bit, but not much. But they're just stupid little false dawns. You think it's Mike Myers, and that absolutely, my backside fell out. I went completely on the deck. I was like, it's horrible. But brilliant again, absolutely brilliant, because for a non-sort of horror fan, I was absolutely on the edge of my seat for this film, really panicking when the next jump out scene was coming. Oh, it's just brilliant.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that, like, everything that happened in that, like, that little sequence, just with the whole, like, that's almost like a little film by itself.
Yeah.
Just the little, that fun relationship between the babysitter and the kids. I felt very quickly, like immediately, like, I do not want these characters to die.
Yeah.
Please, no.
Yeah.
And then the boyfriend turns up, and he's just so wacky looking with his little horse, and I just sort of thought, I can't let someone that innocent and dumb die. I just want all of these 3 kids to somehow get out of it. And my God, when Mike Myers turns up there, it is, and like when we see what happens to the boyfriend as well, we don't actually get to see him get killed.
Yeah.
But when we actually find out what his fate was, that was one of the biggest scares for me. And it was just, you're kind of in like Michael Myers' point of view at that point, and it's just, this is a dead person. That's not important. That whole sequence for me was the highlight of the film.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I agree. I really enjoyed that one as well. That whole set piece, and
yeah.
I think I'm going to steal a line from Samuel L. Jackson, who played Valentine in Kingsman, and say, you don't want all these people to die. Well, this ain't that kind of movie.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at that, and pretty young blonde babysitter inviting her boyfriend round to bring the weed around as well. Yep, you've had it.
that's the thing. Yeah, that of course. I forgot that we're in horror movie rules.
Now, what I will say, just to tie it back to comics a little bit more again, so the actress who plays Vicky there is a lady called Virginia Gardner, and she plays Carolina in The Runaways. So I don't know if you guys have seen that at all.
I've heard of it, but I've not seen it.
But she plays I mean, the thing is with The Runaways, they don't really have code names and costumes like a lot of the other heroes. But yeah, she does have a kind of alias called Lucy in the Sky, and so again, I recognise that. And again, straight away, classic Scream Queen. Yep, you're gone. Just a matter of time. And I have to say, when Dawkins comes in and he's you've got the bloody sheet and you're not quite sure, what's behind the sheet. Is it Michael? Is it a victim? Or, that was the bit that went on just too long for me. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, just put me out of my misery. Get it over and done with. I know you're going to make me jump.
Just put some bullets in it and worry about it later.
Yeah, that's true. I never actually thought of that. I was just thinking, look, you're going to scare me. Just scare me, for God's sake. Stop prolonging it.
Yeah.
No, it was a good scene. And I must admit, guys, as well, one thing I've got to give full credit for, I absolutely love the 1970s musical score for everything.
Oh,
fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that was one of the best bits. That because there's this new motif that comes in where it's almost like just like a good one string of a guitar just getting plucked. When Michael Myers turns up, and I've got goosebumps right now just thinking about it.
It was brilliant, and even the yellow lettering and type at the start was true to the original. I was really impressed with that. I must admit, I really thought. They didn't even hide the fact that they were trying to, they were just going full on 1978 job. And I've really enjoyed it. I really did think it made the film because that can make or break it, and it was brilliant.
I mean, if you just get rid of mobile phones that pop up in this film, I mean, honestly, it could be set in the 70s. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that's true. Great little section, and I think from here, the film is really good because the action's pretty much non-stop from here, and the scares and that. It's really interesting the way they've sort of, not misstep, but there's been a few things. But as from this point on, it's really good. Mike Myers is in full-on assassin mode, and he's just maniacal now.
Well, Laurie and Hawkins. So Hawkins was back in the original 78 movie as well, wasn't he? He was the guy who arrested Michael, and they kind of meet up, and they actually managed to get a shot away on Michael. And I think this, with the superhuman strength and the fact he gets shot and everything, again, this is where I'm thinking, I wonder if he is, a little bit superhuman. He's more than a man. But sure enough, we're not at the end of the movie, so he does get away there. But then, so I guess we switch then to Alison, don't we? And it's funny, Mike, you say about the mobile phones. And what we really need is a plot device to get rid of a mobile phone so you can't just ring.
Very good.
All right, we're back to nitpicking.
A little bit, but this is a big one, So we need to have that happen. So she catches her boyfriend, who up until this point he seemed all right, but he's putting it about a bit at the school dance, and so she's no longer with her mobile phone, and she heads off and. The other friend, you have this love triangle thing going on. It actually reminds me a little bit of actor who plays Foggy Nelson in Daredevil.
Oh,
yeah. I kept looking at him. I kept thinking, is that him? No, he's too young.
Yeah, very much.
Oh, honestly, I thought that in the cinema, and I'm not lying to you. I was going to ask you that. I thought when I get a sec, I'll ask you that because he looked like his younger brother. Absolute top pick there, Dave. I'll give you that one. That's really good.
Yeah, but he's a little bit of he's packing a few extra pounds, and God loves a trier, and by God he was trying, wasn't he? So fair play to him, I think, for having a go.
He that was a full friend zoning.
Yeah.
But he handled it fairly well. He obviously had ideas above his station. With what's her name?
Alison.
Alison. And God bless him, he tried to kind of say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was just so hot at the guacamole." Guacamole. And I was kind of annoyed at him, but when he started off with the guacamole line, I was like, "Oh, you're all right." And then I slowly realized, "Oh no, he's on his own."
Yeah. And actually, this, again, another shortcut there. What could go wrong? But again, in terms of just suspense and giving me the chills, this piece with him where the security lights are going on and off, and you get Michael, you see him, now you don't see him. Oh, that got me, that bit.
Yeah, that was. I mean, visually, that was such a great. That was like that could have been in the original. That was so good. That bit, really playful, and that's how you do Michael Myers, right? Play around with like the editing and stuff like that. You don't make him do something particularly like special. You do something special with like, oh god, that somebody's trying to kill me. And I just thought that was amazing. I was in awe. Like, this was peak movie for me at this point. I was really loving it.
It's a really good point, because I think for me, just overall, we see him a little bit too much. And the best bits of the movie are when we just see him, when you talk about he stabs the woman through the back of the neck, and leading up to that, when she's just about to draw the blinds, you just see the shadow walking down the side of the house.
Yeah.
And you just, for me, it's when you don't see him and he really is that boogeyman, Yes. And I think if I was to critique anything, I would just say we saw him a little bit too much just out in the open. And if we saw him a little bit less, and it was a bit more like that scene with Foggy Nelson Jr., then I think it'd have been, the suspense would have been higher than what it was.
I agree, 100%.
Now, obviously, I don't want to absolutely decimate the film here, Mike. I'm not, because I'm enjoying the film.
Here we go. But
as Dave would say, hold my beer. But Alison, she gets picked up at this house. Hawkins comes and Dr. Sartain's there again, or whatever he's called. And they put her in the back of a cop car, which obviously got, childproof locks on.
I think they're prisoner locks, not just child locks.
No. But in the UK, it's child locks, isn't it?
Keep child criminals.
Yeah. So she's obviously in the back of this cop car, isn't she, behind the mesh and everything. What was the reasoning behind the copper going full on to run Mike Myers over? I just couldn't understand the logic of driving your car at him as a policeman. You would, get out, get your gun out, freeze or whatever, and then shoot him. And then maybe if he hits the deck or whatever, fair enough. But I was struggling a bit with this bit. And then obviously, they run Mike Myers over. And then all of a sudden, the Dr. Sartain now turns into, he's got Wolverine-like claw down his hand, adamantium thing, and just stabs Hawkins from nowhere. And I'm thinking, this is the plot twist that justifies why the bus was sort of ransacked and he got away in the first place. But obviously you can allude to that in a minute, Dave. It wasn't. I really thought that was just a bit weak, really, to be honest. That was more a plot device. And obviously Dr. Sartain then gets Mike's on the floor and he gets his mask on, doesn't he? And just what's going on here?
I thought that was going to be a Dark Knight Rises moment where it was like, Michael Myers is a symbol.
Yeah.
And it was just,
this isn't the serial killer you deserve. It's.
But obviously that didn't happen. But yeah, that was a very, very strange moment in the film for me. That felt like something out of one of the 90s Halloween movies, which obviously become very, very camp and cheesy. And they just take these huge jumps in logic. But I do like the idea of a Michael Myers sending a psychiatrist, like a doctor, crazy just because he just can't get through to him. So that was fine. But it basically, we needed that for Mike to get to Laurie's house. That's ultimately what that exists for. Because I was literally thinking, like, how Mike doesn't know where she lives. Yeah, how is this going to happen?
Yeah. I think, Chris, I mean, in the original movie, Dr. Loomis says, he tried to get through to Michael, and then he realized, he's just evil incarnate. So there is no getting through to him. He's just pure evil. And I guess I saw the bit with running him over with actually a bit of common sense. Again, it's horror movie rules, isn't it? So serial killer comes into the house, brilliant, let's run upstairs. It's the horror movie rules, isn't it? Whereas you see this absolutely, maniacal serial killer, run him over. Don't stop to get your gun out or anything. Just run him over. I thought that was the most sensible thing he could have done. And for me, I believed it because, this is someone who was in that inner circle, if you like, from the original movie. So I bought that bit. What I didn't buy is the James Bond scalpel pen that the Doctor had. Yeah! It's like, where did that come from? So
James Bond, brilliant.
Yeah, so that was the bit that I didn't buy, and I guess bringing it back to comics again. So the Harley Quinn character is supposed to have been, she was originally a psychiatrist, but the Joker kind of manipulated her and sort of turned her mad. I was kind of thinking along those lines, but I thought it's a bit trickier when Michael hasn't said anything for 40 years. So how do you turn someone mad when you haven't actually said anything? All you do is stand there like a lamppost, and you suddenly turn this psychiatrist who's studied for his life and just suddenly decides to kill someone in cold blood and then gets the mask on. And that was too much for me, I think, in terms of a leap.
You probably find that Michael Myers was like very close to actually speaking to him at one point, and then he probably started to think like, "Oh man, this guy's a little much." I'm just gonna keep myself. I think he's losing it all on his own.
Yeah, he's a bit full on, this guy. Yeah, absolutely.
And what I was saying a minute ago, for the next section, Mike and David, this is why I struggle with this sort of heat. As I'm a big wrestling fan, Mike, right? Or I was. I don't watch a lot of the new stuff now, but I watch a lot of the old stuff. And obviously, when a good guy turns bad, they call it a heel turn. I don't know if you're into wrestling or you've watched it. Yeah. So we've had the whole Dr. Sartain heel turn now. He's now a bad guy. So I'm thinking, well, obviously, they're in the police car and all that, and he's driving the police car. Mike's in the back with Alice, and she's absolutely crapping it because he don't know what he's going to do. And then obviously he starts breathing, doesn't he? And she's panicking then because his hands are twitching. And Mike gets up, doesn't do anything to Alice, and obviously from nowhere, obviously this Dr. Sartain is now the baddie, just, puts his fist right through the mesh, starts choking out the doctor, doesn't he? And he obviously pulls this child safety lock off the door and all gets himself out because Alison couldn't get herself out. He gets himself out. And then he stamps on his head and just crushes him. And I was so... that's why I had a problem with this heel turn of the doctor, because I was thinking, well, you've aided and abetted him. When you weren't dead on the bus, it's all pointing towards that you were the one that he will not kill because you've been his ally for 40 years trying to get into his brain and you're like a pal. But then he did I liked it. I liked the twist. But then he was just like, yeah, you're gone, mate. Bang, straight away. Put my boot through your head. And that was it. And I was shocked by that because it didn't go to type how I thought it was. And that was a good twist, I thought.
I think it's because Michael Myers knew that the writers didn't know what to do with him anymore.
Don't ruin it now. Don't ruin it.
That's Michael Myers' superpower, is he knows what the plot is. It's true though, to some extent. It's like, I think the writers must have looked at this and kind of gone, okay, we added this character into this film, so Mike had a reason to go to Laurie's house.
Yeah,
they're there now. We don't know we don't have anything to do with them. Do you know what we haven't had for a while? A really good head explosion scene. So I cheered at that bit personally.
I didn't. I thought it was gonna, that plot twist I thought was gonna last a little bit longer than it did. But I think you've nailed it. I think, how else would he turn up at the house other than being driven there? But what did you guys make to that effect of, the actual stamping on the head?
Oh well, I mean, there's so I was recently thinking of a like a comic that I wanted to do. Like I was going to do like a short one for myself potentially. I was just playing around with the storyline, and I just thought to myself, you know what? I've got to have a head explosion in it. I just want to have like the story can revolve around a head explosion, and it's done. I just love it when it happens in films because it just comes out of nowhere sometimes. I don't know if you guys have seen Scanners.
No.
It's got the most famous head explosion in a film ever, and it is absolutely incredible. So I'm like, I don't need a good reason for it. I'm always happy to see someone's head get caved in.
In films, you should finish that off.
In films, yes. Sorry. Whoever's editing this, make sure that stays in.
No, that's cool. I wasn't sure because I thought it looked bad. But I wasn't sure if it was just another homage thing. It was intentionally bad, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm not. I don't know if he's done that to anyone else in the series, but again, it is kind of an allusion to this sort of supernatural strength that he has, because skulls are not designed to do that by any like I don't. I think even a skull can handle a car on top of it. Honestly, they are so strong. So him, like, he made his head look like a cake.
Yeah.
I will say one thing is, like, it didn't have the sort of impact it should have had. I mean, I just enjoyed it because, again, like, I've got certain things that are like checked off in a horror film, and I like to see how they do an exploding head, and it just made his head look so soft. It did look fake. It did look very, very fake.
Yeah.
Well, but we get our plot device has done its job, and Alison runs off into the woods, and I'm thinking, oh, for Christ's sake, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Down the lit road, you can outrun him, but no, she runs right into the woods. But we get the last stand kind of now, don't we? So we're all kind of converging on the house, and this fortified house that that Laurie's got, and we get the dad, so he's outside, and so he's very quickly dispatched along with the policeman. And of course, again, one little nit that I am going to pick, right? So Laurie's got this whole fortified house. She's gone full on A-Team or Home Alone, depending on what your frame of reference is. And, Michael's come in and she decides to stand right with her back to the front door. And I'm thinking, oh, come on. Anyway, you've seen the first movie. You were in the first movie. Don't stand right there. And then sure enough, Michael just reaches right through and starts to try and choke her out there.
40 years of preparing.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. Like everything else, this meticulous preparation and what she's done to her house, and just schoolboy error, just standing right with your back to the door. So, but I mean, the thing is with Michael, again, is he a man? Is he superhuman? When she actually blows off his fingers, I thought, well, you can't grow them back.
No, right?
So if you're going to keep this continuity, you're going to have to keep him without some fingers now.
Well, yeah, I was quite surprised that they did that, actually, because, well, I mean, based on how the film ends, there could be a sequel, and, you don't... I think it's just sort of like tricky to. I mean, I guess they'll just have to hire a stuntman now, potentially without those fingers, because you can't do that with prosthetics, throughout like another film or something, because it just wouldn't look right. and you'd have to constantly be. I suppose you could do it with like CGI.
I think they'd just wrap his fingers up in green or something.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I suppose so. But it's like, I mean, if we get like 3 more of these films, like how many more appendages is he going to lose?
Yeah, just one per movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and I must admit, I think what you said before, Mike, is it's very cliched, I suppose. Like you say, you've got a tick list of horror films, and my limited knowledge of horror films is there's always someone, from the first scene that you see him, they're getting killed. So obviously Ray, the dad, he's gone. Michael just decimates him. But what I don't get, and I do get it when I'm watching the film, actually, sorry, I do get it, but I'm watching it thinking, why do you want to go under a cupboard, under a kitchen counter and hide from a maniacal serial killer? And I get it when we get to it in a minute, but I kept watching it, and the way they just tossed the remote on the side like he was just changing a TV channel. I think, and even Mike Myers, without his fingers, he's going to be able to press that button.
And Mike's not going to speak to us after this episode, I don't think. But why would you open it with your little remote control there and then leave it in the kitchen?
Yeah.
thinking he's just going to press the button when he gets
exactly. So I found that a little bit bizarre, I have to say.
That was all. You see, this last third of the film is when it began to lose me a little bit, because it had the best moments in the film, but also the worst moments for me. So it was just kind of going up and down. Like the scene where Laurie is stalking Michael, and she thinks he's hiding behind the shuttered doors. I thought that was amazing when he knocks her out of the house and then she disappears on him. Yeah. I was like fist pumping into the air. I thought that was fantastic. And then, we get to that scene where the mother and the daughter are downstairs and, she's freaking out and stuff. And I was kind of thinking, oh, well, this is kind of what I was expecting. Like, you can't ruin your own life and your daughter's life by thinking that the boogeyman's going to come after you. I thought that this is kind of where the film was going. That if you've been traumatized, you can't just fester on it all the time. You're going to ruin your own life, sort of thing. You got to figure out how to kind of move past it and stuff. And then all of a sudden, the film just flips on us. The mother is completely competent. She shoots bloody Mike Myers, and then Laurie turns up out of nowhere, and they just fucking let him have it. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't really sure what the film was trying to say. So she was right all along, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what kind of a message they're trying to send.
I actually think, to be fair, Mike, I thought that scene with the daughter was the best scene in the film with the
that was great. It was really satisfying to see her shoot him.
I wasn't expecting it one bit, because the way she played it was she was this caring mother. She had the bags under the eyes, the whole I don't want my daughter going through what I've had to go through as a child. I had to get the social services took me away. I couldn't live with my mum. She'd had some sort of, PTSD breakdown and all that. And it all alluded to it all the way through. We had Ray there, who was obviously the wet lettuce husband. It was obviously Alison's dad, but they're not even bothered the fact that the dad and the husband's been killed. It's just like, well, the 3 women are all right. Let's just go away. Don't mention that. It's not like he's a stepdad. Using these films, they're the stepdads, aren't they? Or a boyfriend who's a bit of a sleaze. That's actually a dad. And he's like, well, he's dead. Well, we're all right. See ya. And they just leave him. But that scene with the daughter, I didn't see that coming. And I'll be honest, I thought that was fantastic. I did. I love it, because she said she's got, I can't do it, I can't. And as soon as he appears, she goes, got you. Bang. And that was brilliant. That was really good. It was proper cat and mouse. And it made sense a bit for what happened, because obviously Michael tumbles down, and then we get this thing, don't we, when it's been a trap all along. And I thought that's a bit thin, but I did also like what they did. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I thought it, when he fell down the stairs and all of a sudden the cage shut, I kind of went, oh, that's a bit cute. Yeah. That's a bit handy. But then at the same time, there has been you got to have handy things. Come on, we got to have these things happen. Yeah. So one thing I was hoping that they would do is when the house started to get set on fire. So obviously, Laurie's house was actually like a big, gigantic booby trap, and she'd always kind of planned on trapping Michael down there, I suppose. In the basement. One of my favorite shots from the film is the way he's just still standing there, eyes on them. Like, I don't care that this house is burning down. I still just want to kill you guys. Yeah. And I thought that maybe what they might do is go back to that shot and just have him burning but still standing, like completely just nonplussed about it. But they didn't do that. Obviously, it's a bit of a fake out, and he might have escaped.
Yeah, it'd be a bit of a sequel killer, that one, wouldn't it, if we actually saw him? Because, again, it's horror movie rules here. And I was thinking, well, surely you'd have some guns upstairs. You're going to stand there. Okay, wait there for me, Michael. Just let me get my Uzi 9mm. Just stand right there, and I'll stick about 30 bullets in your head.
Exactly, yeah. Let me fire up the old cremation chamber, chuck your body in there, just make sure you're definitely gone, Yeah.
And I think, it's a little bit short-sighted. If you're going to have, the basement as a booby trap, have 2 exits maybe. Other than just give us a bit of suspense, because, he grabs the mother's leg and you think, is 1 out of 3 gonna go? But yeah, so I agree though, when he's just stood there emotionless, again, despite the fact, any human being should be panicking a little bit at this point, that was really, really chilling for me.
Yeah, that was great.
It was really good. And obviously we pan back to the house that's on fire, and he isn't at the bottom of the stairs, and we get alluded to in the end credits, don't we, like a breathing sound, like is he alive or isn't he, or is it his final breaths? But again, it leaves it open-ended, and judging by the fact that the film was made on a $15 million budget and made over 105 million or 103 million, whatever it is, I'm pretty certain we may see a sequel pretty soon. Actually, they're going to milk this franchise for all it's worth, unfortunately. I think it's there. I think it's a bit of a renaissance for Jamie Lee Curtis as well, to be fair, 'cause I think she's really good.
She's fantastic in it. Yeah. It's so strange. I'm so used to seeing her with the short hair. Yeah. She almost didn't seem like the same actress. It was really strange. You get so used to seeing somebody like that. It's like when like a guy shaves off a beard that they've had for ages. It just kind of goes, whoa, oh yeah.
Yeah. Really?
I have to say, I thought she put in a great performance there. I really believed that she'd been obsessing over this for 40 years, and she had that whole kind of unkept look with her hair and everything, and just the way she was obsessing. And again, I thought the mother played a great role as well. And I guess you were saying about what's the message, Mike? I guess the message might be, you might think your mum is all homely and she bakes cakes on a Sunday. It might be a bit of a trained killer.
That's true. I guess that's another. I do feel bad for the mother's character to some extent, because it's kind of like she had that great moment, but I kind of wish that maybe her and Laurie were like teamed up and both stalked Mike together. I just didn't see Michael. I didn't see Michael Myers panic. In the first film, there's that great moment where he gets his eye clawed at with the coat hanger, and he takes his mask off momentarily, and it's like the humanity is there almost. Yeah. And I kind of wish we'd had just a little bit of that, just before he gets his comeuppance, just to kind of have Laurie get to kind of go, I made you flinch. I wanted just a little bit of that, but that's this is me, and I have very strange criteria for films.
No, it's very good. Are we happy to go into the review scores, guys?
Sure. Yep, let's go for it.
Now, Mike, you are the guest of honour. Can you go for it? Do you know the score scale, do you?
Which we should probably go through, shouldn't we?
I don't know all of the specific terms. I know we've got Asgard and Atlantis.
That's the one.
Okay. And what else is there?
We got the Hall of Justice right in the middle there. And then further down at the end of the other end of the scale is a Hell's Kitchen. Mm-hmm. And then if this really should not ever been seen again by human eyes, we tend to jettison that off to the Phantom Zone.
Okay, that's perfect. I would have to say, I kind of feel like I want it to be a sort of Hall of Justice, but a very wet Hall of Justice. Like all of the Atlanteans are currently in the Hall of Justice. So I'd like it to be a halfway house between Atlantis and the Hall of Justice.
I wondered where you were going with that, Mike. A very wet Hall of Justice with all the Atlanteans in it. It's a whole different sort of movie.
Just have interest. Can I go there? If that news is there, we're all right.
It could be a dry Atlantis. the scoring. I really enjoyed it, but there's just a couple of things in it that just kind of took me out of it a little bit too much. And when I left the cinema, I was thinking about how great separate moments were, but I wasn't thinking about how great the film was as a whole.
Yeah, that's great.
That's really good. So, Chris, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be far off on all of this. I think, for me personally, as you know, biggest coward going. I want to thank yourselves and Mike Garley, who's not here, unfortunately, for nominating this film, because I absolutely, as I said, jumped out of my skin a few times, but actually enjoyed it. And like I said before, when I jumped out of my skin was not the most obvious stuff. It wasn't even when Mike Myers was on. It was when he wasn't on. And I have that with like the Scream series, even though the Scream series is a bit tongue-in-cheek in some respects. I absolutely jumped. I've watched all of them. I had them all on DVD at one point. And that series of films I love. And it was always the bits where it wasn't the actual killer on the screen that made me jump. Then, oh no, and then I jump. and that's what this gave me. And I can't think of it. And like I say, I thought the music was fantastic again. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I would recommend the film to anybody. I know we've had a laugh and picked a couple of things out that were a bit thin on the ground. And like you say, they just pushed the plot along. But I'm going with Halls of Justice. Now, it's not very wet. It's still dry, but I'm definitely going with Halls of Justice.
Very good. Very good.
Damage. Mate.
So I think I did mention before about, I think studios have discovered this formula where you can marry the old nostalgic stuff from the earlier 70s and 80s movies, and you can bring in some younger actors, and then you can keep the franchise going that way. I just couldn't shake that feeling all the way through the movie. And there were various bits, and again, like you, Mike, there were certain pieces which I thought, oh, brilliant. The bit where Laurie falls down and Mike looks over and she's disappeared, that whole switcheroo from the original, the moment with the mother where I bought it hook, line and sinker, where I thought she's lost it. This is going to be it. She's going to let the side down, and then just blew him away. I just thought individual moments like that were just brilliant. But I can't help but feel, even though, it tugged on those nostalgic strings, it just wasn't as good as the original. And the original was made for $300,000, and again, you've got to bake in inflation, but it's still, I just got so much respect for John Carpenter, someone who you don't get that very often, do you, where someone's written the screenplay, directed it, and put the score together. What a fantastic, iconic score. And I just can't help but feel it's a pale imitation of that first movie. But I will say I did enjoy it. I was thankful that it didn't scare me quite as much as I thought it was going to. There are a few moments, but I think it's 3 cherries. It's 3 in a row. So I'm going to send it to Hall of Justice as well.
Good stuff.
We're all agreed.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, before we go, Mike, get them plugs in, please. Can you get everyone onto the Kickstarter and where they can find our final Halloween and, get them following it like we have and supporting the project because it is a really, really good read.
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously, the probably the best place to come and sort of find out about it is on Twitter, where Mike and I are just kind of screaming about it all the time. So Mike is at Mike Garley, MikeGarley, and I am at Mike Lee Graham, as you'd expect it to be spelt. We've both got the links pinned on our pages. So we've got 5 days left. Or actually, will it be 4 days left by the time the podcast comes out?
That's a really good point. So this will be Sunday that it's released. So we'll just call it a few days.
A few days left. Yeah, a few days left. We've got a few days left. So by all means, please come and check out the Kickstarter. It's a comic I'm really, really proud to have worked on. I know that Mike is absolutely thrilled with how it's come out. The reviews that have been coming in have been glowing, which has been really, really nice for me because I took some liberties with some of the colouring, and the fact that people have kind of responded quite well to it is really nice. And it's great. I mean, I can honestly say, I think I talked about this last time. Is I read through it myself recently, and it's kind of just like once you start working on the artwork for so long, you can kind of sort of forget all of the fun little sort of dialogue in it. And just going through it again, it's great. Mike's writing in it is so fun, and the storyline is really, really strong. And it's very Carpenter. I feel like it's quite a Carpenter-y kind of John Carpenter sort of story, and it's perfect for Halloween, I think.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. And the only thing I'd say that it's a bit more than Carpenter. I think there's some great lines in there.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want to say it's more than John Carpenter.
Well, yeah, maybe that. I guess, maybe not in terms of. Yeah, that's probably not the best way of putting it. But you've got the creepy elements to it, the suspense, human in that. Human. Yeah. There's a bit of humor in there as well, and again, I got kind of a Scream vibe from that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like going through it again, there are some sort of tongue-in-cheek moments as well, which I think are really strong. And this is what happens when you get two people that are absolutely just so passionate about a particular genre. And also, Mike and I just like it. It's been such a great working experience working together. So I'll definitely be doing something with him again in the future. Absolutely.
That's cool. And you guys are down for me at Comic-Con.
Yeah. So Mike and I are both going to be in Comics Village this weekend at the MCM London Comic-Con. It is just it's so much fun to go to those places. And I think that MCM London has got to be one of the best comic conventions in the country. It just like the amount of different stuff that they've got going there. I mean, all of the cosplay and costumes, and it keeps getting better. Like it's absolutely amazing meeting some of these people. Everyone's so friendly, and if you come to my stall on the weekend and want to say hey, then that'd be amazing.
That's cool. So I quite often I'll go to the London Comic Cons, but unfortunately I can't make it to this one, so I'll have to go this weekend without seeing 50 different Harley Quinns and 80 different Poison Ivy variants. So and I sound like I'm being sarcastic, but I really am not.
It's amazing how many different types of versions of the same character you get. It really is.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of them are a lovely sight to behold. So, Chris, have you got any plugs for us?
Yes. our other podcast, the Chat Footy podcast, has had a renaissance. We've got a couple of episodes there. Personally, if you're going to start listening to it, get over to iTunes and search Chat Footy, or from Twitter, which I'll have the links as well, at Chat Footy. And episode 19 is me on a rant about my beloved Manchester United, and episode 20 is where Dave and Ben stitch me up royally. So it's a couple of great episodes. And get over there, follow us. What about yourself, Dave?
Yeah. So we're just for Mike and the listeners as well, we decided what we would do, because normally if Chris and I do a podcast, we do it together and we throw a bit back and forth, a little bit of banter. We're experimenting with a bit of a different formula where we're throwing the banter back and forth, but across episodes. So Chris has recorded episode 19 there, thrown a few barbs across, and I've thrown a few more back with a bit more interest. So if you like to listen to something where, obviously it's football related, but listen to me and Chris give each other pelters, then that's the place to go.
Yeah. And I'll say, Mike, Dave has done me up like a kipper this time, mate. I've got all my hands up.
It's 1-0 to me this week.
Yeah, he's done me completely. Absolutely done me. I can't even, usually I'm not lost for words, but he properly.
So in terms of something that I'll plug, so if you're interested in youth football coaching or soccer coaching, then get across and listen to the Grassroots Coachcast. So that's where Ben and myself talk about all the different challenges. And this week we were lucky enough to interview a chap, Sean from the Footy Factory across in Dallas, Texas. And they've got a whole academy set up there all around coaching. That's basically what they do full time. And so it was really interesting to hear the different setup that they have in the US. And there's quite a lot of things that are really quite different. So yeah, really interesting episode coming out this Monday. Okay, guys, thank you very much. And all what I'd like to do is I'd like to say, Mike, it's been brilliant to have you on again. You've always got an open invite to come on anytime you want. Just give us a shout. Best of luck for Sunday. And Chris, how are you going to lead us out?
I knew you were going to do that.
So, Mike, we like to try and get that last word in, because we always get to this point in the show and we forget that we should come up with some witty line.
We're never prepared. So, all I'll say to you is, we've had Mike Garley, we've had Mike Lee Graham, Mike Myers has ended it all. Goodbye.
Boogeyman, all this hiding, all this preparation, it was for nothing. It took priority over your family. It cost you your family.
If the way I raised your mother means that she hates me, but that she's prepared for the horrors of this world, then I can live with that.
Say goodbye to Michael and get over it.